Yes, I'm pretty decent with geography, but my African geography is not exactly up to speed right now.
All right, gentlemen, we're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up.
Got it!
Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. It is April 1st. No fooling. We're here for real. And we've got the busiest man in high school coverage, Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network, right off the bat. Greg, how are you, sir?
Good morning, my friend. It was good to see you, even if it was brief on Saturday.
Absolutely. You looked like you were ready to go to work, and a heavy day of work, I'm sure it was, with 4 state finals games happening at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And I didn't get to see the first 2. But these games were the 2 I saw were awesome games. Scottsburg winning their first state championship. The entire town of Scottsburg had to be in Gamebridge Fieldhouse because they filled their section up with abundance. But congratulations to Scottsburg, and of course to congratulations to Ben Davis, but to Fischers for pulling off another state title as well without Jalen Harrelson, who transferred to La Lumiere. So that was pretty incredible to see.
It was, and Fischer state championship to me was very reminiscent of Ben Davis' state championship from a season ago, where there was not a dominant player on the team, even though both Garner and John Anthony Hall were tremendous in the game on Saturday night. But it was 8, 9 players that all knew their roles and all knew them to the hilt. And again, this wasn't something that Fischer's had an entire offseason to prepare for Jalen Harrelson not playing. He played in June with the team. He played in the summer circuit. And everybody then said, I'm not sure anybody's beaten Fischer's this year. Well, then he announces his departure to LaPorte La Lumiere, and the team never missed a beat. They lost 1 game at a good Carmel team on January 27th. That's it. And so what Fischer's did against the 3rd toughest schedule in the state, and they ended up beating 4, maybe 5 ranked teams in their 7 postseason games, is pretty remarkable. So hats off to Garrett Weininger. And as far as Scottsburg is concerned, so impressed with them. I mean, obviously the community sport unit, you touched on it, but Jimmy, they played 6 guys. They had 4 players that never left the floor the entire game. And obviously I have the luxury of sitting next to Mike Broughton, who knows the area well and clearly knows the game well. But it's a Scottsburg team that really doesn't have a true point guard. And so Eric Richardson's son, who's 6'5", plays that role for them. And against a team that pressed them most of the game, Scottsburg had 4 turnovers. 4. And you had 4 guys that played all 32 minutes. So just it was 2 great games. Frankly, both games were 9 or 10-point wins. They were both 1-point games going to the 4th quarter. And the team that led going to the 4th quarter lost both of those games. So 2 tremendous evening session games at Gamebridge on Saturday night.
Yeah, Scottsburg, they had some size, man. I was impressed. I was like, dang on, there's some big boys. So they had some height out there. And then what I noticed, and it's not a slight meant against any of the other teams, but that 4A game, as soon as that thing got underway, I was like, whoa. You could tell there was a step up in athletic ability and speed. The game was a little faster. I was like, it was a little difference here. It's a different style game.
Right. Brownstown, was the one team outside of 4A that I thought could truly hang with the top end of 4A. And unfortunately, because of some injuries, we didn't see that, when Brownstown, I think, played 10 different 4A teams. Obviously, a lot of those are the teams in the, Hoosier Hills Conference. But they also extended themselves. They played Lawrence North at Brownsburg. Well, Jack Benner got hurt the night before. They played the Hall of Fame Classic. Jack Benner got hurt the week before. They beat Brownsburg without him and then didn't have much for Crispus Attucks in the second game. Jack did play when they played at Carmel and won that game on January the 13th. I don't know, since I didn't have the Brownstown game, I don't know where they finished in the Saccharin ratings, but they were in the top 10 all season long. Scottsburg was 21 going into that game. I think Scottsburg's size would have given them a chance to compete with the upper end teams in, say, a one-game scenario. But again, what really impressed me about Scottsburg's win on Saturday was knowing how few guys they wanted to play, how they were able to play so well in the second game against Guerin Catholic 2 weeks earlier at Seymour, knowing that they're not going to the bench very much, is Eric Richardson with that team.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch that, and fun to watch all the different schools, how they supported their teams in there. And again, I said to Tyler Smith, who was with me, the writer from thehoosier.com, that I'm like, man, I didn't want to post this, but I'm like, this would be a good time to go down in Scottsburg and make off with all kinds of jewelry and whatever. There could not have been anybody left in Scottsburg. I mean, that place was packed with gold shirts.
It was, and that has been typical of at least one of the 3A teams, if not both, for the most part during those state championships. And obviously a little bit different for South Bend St. Joe, the longer drive and being a parochial school. But, whether it's Greensburg, Washington, whomever has been in the 3A game, they have brought this remarkable crowd seemingly year in, year out. We had that on both sides in the girls' championship 5 weeks earlier between Norwell and Gibson Southern. And so while the 3A schools often can't match the athleticism and overall play of the 4A champ, crowd-wise, they tend to match it, if not exceed it. So the folks in Scott County have a lot to be proud about for how their team played, but also how their fans showed out all season long, but especially Saturday night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
So what does Greg Rakestraw do now that this college or high school basketball season has finally come to a close?
He reminds his kids that they look like him, for the first thing. Secondly, I turn more into a sales guy this time of year. So, I've got road trips. So I'm going to be in Champaign on Wednesday, DeKalb, Illinois on Thursday, making an up and back to Louisville on Friday to see some buddies of mine that are in town for the big Indy 11 and Lou City USL Championship match. It is on CBS.
Oh wow!
Obviously, turn into a Purdue fan. With what they were able to accomplish yesterday, but for the most part, my focus goes to the business side of things for ISC Sports Network, and I do keep busy with Indy 11 matches, and then there's this little thing in Indianapolis called the month of May that keeps me hopping at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
It's like
and
a
so
sock hop or something going on, right?
The world's largest one of them. About 350,000 people show up for it the day before Memorial Day. So
Dude,
I'll be spending three
Greg,
consecutive weekends at IMS starting on Mother's Day weekend.
Leaving there last year, after you cover an event, you're usually there for, well, at least in my case, another hour and a half to 2 hours doing things.
Yep.
And there is never any traffic of any place when you leave. Last year, after a couple of hours, I'm like, all right, be good. I get out. I didn't move from the parking spot that I was in for 30 minutes. It was mind-boggling.
No.
And I'm like, oh
God. It is the one time that I am fortunate to be doing a 3-hour post-game show. And so normally when I leave a Colts game at 7 o'clock after a 1 o'clock kickoff, Bill Brooks and I have the last two cars in the parking lot, and we are walking through an empty stadium. When I leave the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in my parking spot that's just behind the pagoda, basically the race ends at usually about 3:30, 3:45. and then I'm on and from about 4 o'clock when the network wraps up until 7. And I can get to my car pretty easily. Getting out of the infield, usually I can do pretty quickly. And then usually I get to Georgetown Road, and it's hit or miss as to whether I'm able to drive home quickly or not. I will say this, the year after the 100th, which has been the largest crowd of the modern era, so 2016, I think I made it back to my house about 8 o'clock. Normally my drive, even at 5 a.m., knowing I have a guaranteed parking spot, my drive is about 20 minutes to get from Broad Ripple to Speedway. Even that's not the case when you have to move what turns into the 59th largest city in the country on that day. That's
Crazy.
how many people attend the Indianapolis 500 each and every year.
It's a wild one. Hey, but don't forget, I know you may not have any involvement with this, but coming up starting, the NIT is in semis or in Hinkle starting tomorrow, but the Chipotle National High School National Finals start Wednesday. That's over at Brownsburg High School, and some of the biggest stars in the country will be there for that. Will you have a chance to go over and watch any?
I will not go over to any of that. Some of our crew will kind of help produce that, but I get to skip that one. So I'll leave that to those that follow the national circuit. I know it's some great talent that will be there.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Well, man, you enjoy your week, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, buddy. Take care, Jim.
Absolutely. Greg Rakestraw joining us from the ISC Sports Network as the high school season comes to a close. Fischer's wins the 4A title with a tough match over Ben Davis. Scottsburg wins 3A. I believe Jack Benner picked up the 3A title. I was not there for that, but it was fun time, at least. I saw Brian Walsh was there for the 4A game from Indiana, checking out some guys. I meant to bring this up to Greg. Fischer's on their roster had 11 guards. 11. There was 11 guards listed. I think 2 forwards and 1 center. It was crazy to look down that roster, and they start 4 guards, by the way. So I can imagine Brian didn't specify who he was watching, but we can kind of narrow it down to the guard position. That's a definite. Scottsburg had some big boys. Also saw Michael Lewis, former Hoosier, now head coach at Ball State. Talked to him for a minute. Down there scouting some guys. He needs a guard. He got Peyton Sparks back, so we'll see what he can do this season. I saw Clayton Anderson, our good friend, who will be performing in the concert at Indiana's Memorial Stadium coming up later this month. We'll have him on to talk about that soon. Hey, we've got to take a break and get things going. Up next, Don Fischer and Todd Leary are going to join us. And we look forward to talking to those two. We've got lots more coming up. Back with all of that and more, brought to you by our good friends from Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Mall Road. Great place to catch the games. And there are tons of them. You've got the NIT semifinals from Hinkle tonight, and the NCAA Women's Elite Eight. How about that? You've got LSU Iowa. We'll talk about that, man, and plenty more right after this.
And I don't have the commercial sound bites, so I'll just have to add them in after the fact. I just texted John about that. I used to have them on here.
It's weird. I told Todd Leary the wrong time. No, I didn't. I got it right.
Good.
You know what? I'm gonna resend it to him as well, just in case. Forward to Todd Leary. That is it. Send to Rooney. Coffee refill. Well, that's something.
All right, gentlemen, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
You guys hear me okay?
1. Yes.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio on this Monday. Todd Leary with us from myjumpshot.com. We're waiting for Don Fischer actually to join us, and look forward to having him on, unless he's getting a link problem. But there he is, popping on now. But
look at that guy! Look who's here!
Surprise! Surprise!
The little passing of the torch, Don, and John was so broken up that and people, this is your last chance to look at that lovely mug of Don Fischer's until next.
What are you talking
next
about?
Fall.
What, are you just filling time here? What are you doing? That lovely mug. You got to be kidding me.
It's pretty cute. It's pretty cute.
There you go. Hey, well, you know what? Well, Todd once told you he loved you on air, so there's that.
I know. And he does. He loves me.
And I 100% do.
But you know what? I know you end up getting had to write a letter over that one, but that was still, that's great. That is really great though. It's iconic. It is truly an iconic moment.
You want to know the best part of everything I saw yesterday was I saw Robbie Hummel doing a radio on the sidelines of the Purdue game, and he was crying like a baby. and so now finally I can. And Robbie Hummel, I think, is one of the best announcers on TV.
You're right.
And to see him lose his emotions a little bit like that, honestly, I felt a little relief on my end.
No, I'll tell you what. I mean, Hummel, you're right. I've seen him. He's doing more games than just about anybody in the country, I think, because he is in demand. That's how good he is. Yeah, people want him on their broadcasts.
Oh, I was thinking. I think I'm not gonna. I don't have the ability to go back and count all these, but I'm guessing he might have done more TV games this year than anybody. He was doing 4 or 5 games a week.
Well, at one point I think I watched it, and he did a Fox game, an ESPN game, a Big Ten Network game, all in the same week, and I'm sitting there going, I mean, they want literally. You don't have to worry about whether it's an IU game or Purdue game or Joe Schmo, because he does his research. He knows everything about both teams and coaches and everyone involved. And then he's very impartial. Like, he just calls the game the way it is. Like, he's my favorite announcer to listen to.
I agree.
Well, that's nothing, Todd. I turned on one day, I was watching a game, and then I flipped it over and he was doing both of them.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Oh, Don Fischer joining us now, and I haven't broke the news to the fans, but it's Don takes off for a retreat from now until the fall, and goes and sits into a teepee out somewhere out west and regathers everything after an exhausting season of broadcasting games, sometimes 3 days in a row doing stuff. But looking forward to I know what you're looking forward to. And yesterday was a sure nice day to start that, man. Yesterday was beautiful out. Happy Easter to everybody, by the way. How was your weekend, Don?
Well, it was good. It was good in the sense that I went to football practice on Saturday because I've been to all 5 football practices. I think it's 5 at this point that they've had. So I had a chance to do that on Saturday. I did not play golf. I wanted to play golf. I did try to hit balls, and when I did hit balls, I was hitting them so badly I decided to quit. And maybe I'm going to take up tennis. I don't know because my golf game just stinks right now.
At your age, pickleball is the thing you got to go for.
No, I'm not going to that. My brother tore his Achilles playing pickleball, and he won't tell anybody that because he did. He was playing pickleball, and he tore his Achilles, and he went, "I'm not telling anybody I play pickleball." So I'm out. I can't play pickleball. I got to figure out something. Maybe I'll play croquet or some crap. So who knows?
There is nothing that scares me more than every now and then feeling a twinge down in that Achilles area. Every time I do, I just stop what I'm doing. I'm like, nope. Whatever that is, I don't want that to happen.
Every golfer knows the more you say you're going to quit means the more rounds you're going to play this year.
I know. But it's so frustrating.
I understand.
You get, I literally listen, I don't know when this was, maybe 15, 20 years ago. I got down to a 3 handicap and I thought, man, I'm really a good player. And ever since I was at that 3, it's just gone. And it's just been terrible. I'm up to like an 8 or a 9 handicap now. And it's so frustrating. It really is.
Well, we're all playing that misery violin for you now, that 8 or 9 handicap.
Just kiss off.
Hey, you know who's become a really good golfer is our friend Mitchell Page.
Oh, I know Mitchell, but here's the thing you got to know about Mitchell. We played together on two different occasions. We have had a competition. I beat him both times.
Oh, baby! I will remind him of that. I cannot wait.
He won't admit that I beat him the last time, but I did. At any rate, we played at Sawgrass, at TPC Sawgrass,
Oh, wow.
When we were down there for the Gator Bowl, and I shot 89 and he shot 90.
What'd you do on 17?
I hit my ball in that little bunker in the front of the green there.
Yeah.
And chipped it out and got it up there close enough to 2-putt for a 4. So I made 4.
So you made birdie? You made birdie?
No, Well, here's the thing. On 16, he knocked it in the water twice.
So that's how you got him? Yeah.
I got him.
He pulled out the tin cup. I could get it there.
Yeah, he is a fun guy to play with, though. I'm telling you, he's a lot of fun to play with. He's become a really good player. I think he's probably a 1 or 2 handicap, probably. He's good. How about you, Toddy? What are you at now, bud?
I don't keep score anymore. I just count how many birdies I can make it around because there's always 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 doubles and out of bounds balls. So now I just try to see how many birdies I can make it around.
Well, I understand that. Just play for skins, right?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
Only
Don, the off season has started for IU basketball, which means recruiting, and they have filled that spot that was opened up by Liam McNeely with the signing of Bryson Tucker, a 5-star wing, and several guys in the portal. You can tell that this year, after taking a lot of heat, because last year their recruiting was it seemed to have too much tunnel vision. All their eggs were in one basket. They would go after a guy, which going after someone like Dalton Connect, you can see why if you watched the game yesterday. Yeah. He's a monster, just an absolute game changer. But they are casting a much, much wider net this time around, and a lot of guards in that play. But guys like Leland Walker, who played from at Warren Central, and it was at EKU. He's in the portal, and he's supposed to visit today, as a matter of fact, but I think he changed that visit. But and several other guys, Tony Perkins. But there's just the net is much wider this year for Indiana's recruiting.
Well, here's the thing. The good news is that Malik Renew's going to be back. Mbako's coming back. Mbako's got to learn how to play defense. But other than that, I think he could upgrade himself pretty dramatically with a good summer of work if he learns to play defense, because I think he's a talented kid. Don't you think he's got the shot? He's got a really good looking shot, does he not, Todd?
Oh my, it's one of the most beautiful. I tell this story all the time, but last year, the very first shot I ever saw him take, I walked in the summer practice and I walked in the gym and he took a shot from the corner right there when you come out of that tunnel right there. And he took a shot and I just stopped and walked over to Calvert and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's one of the most effortless, beautiful shots. Like it's a great looking shot. Like there isn't anything on him that you need to try to change other than what's between here.
Right. Exactly. I mean, he's a talented kid. There's no question. So at least you got a nucleus of guys to work with Galloway, and Anthony Leal is a really, I think he can help them, but he's still not a starter type guy. Anthony's got to come off the bench, and he's got to be more consistent with his shooting and got to look for his shot a little bit more too, because he can shoot the basketball when he gets it going. But they've got to find other guys in this portal. They're going to have to not get another big man, without question, somebody else that can help inside. They've got to find that. They've got to get another point guard, somebody that is really quick, athletic, understands how to play the game. If the Walker kid's that kid, that's fine. But if you've watched this tournament, every single one of these teams has a guard, a point guard that flat out runs the show. Every single one of them, and they've got it. That's something they've got to have. And I think Gabe Cupps is a good kid, and he's a really good player in many respects, but he's not that guy right now. They've got to find somebody right now that is that good if they're going to be any good next year, I think. And then they've got to fill in the other, guys in those other roles, and because they got 6 scholarships available, so they can get some people if they can get it done. But to me, right now, it's all about who they get out of the transfer portal, and if they can find the right guys and put the pieces together, I think they could be a respectable team next year.
Todd, I think that the portal is where they're probably going to look mainly for these, the 2024 class. I don't know. They didn't have a lot of treadway there. And as a matter of fact, the 2025 class in the state of Indiana is massive with talent. So I'm assuming that they're going to try to fill more with the portal guys, because you get experience. And guys like Jack Steph Golke are out there. There are so many guys that are playing this game that are at schools that you've never heard of, but it's the development, their body's development. It's amazing. It's why people think that, well, he should stay another year. And there's a lot of truth to that because of what you're able to learn, whether it's defensive or just physical growth, whatever the case may be. But there's a reason why these guys were unheralded, and then they move up and they play for a mid-level, mid-major, and then boom, next thing you know, Dalton Connect or Lance Jones or those guys are on the big stage.
Yeah, well, you can just watch the games this weekend, and you take the Final Four teams, but you could take the Sweet 16 and look at almost all of those teams had at least one guy that was a very important part of what they're doing and where they're getting to that is from the portal, and that is it doesn't even necessarily have to be from a lesser team or whatever. I think Dalton Connect is probably the example I would use for Mbako more than anyone, because if you followed him throughout the entire year, and I followed him from day one at Tennessee, and the big knock on him was he didn't play defense. He didn't understand how to play defense. And Rick Barnes is a defensive guy, and that was part of the reason why he chose Tennessee. And there were some early parts in especially, I know they lost to Ohio State early in the year, and Rick Barnes was extremely frustrated with Dalton Connect and his lack of ability to pick up the defensive philosophies and what they were trying to do. And then you can also see like what that transformed into in just one season, and how he became not just a great, probably the best offensive all-around player in the country, but a really good piece of their defense. I watched him yesterday defensively. He was really he improved more defensively than he did offensively throughout the season, and that's saying a lot. And so I think the ability to do that is there. I think Mbako has that capability of doing that. Dalton Connect's grown up a scorer his whole life. defense has been on the back burner. And I think Mbako can do that. But from the overall portal perspective, I mean, we're all learning it as it happens every year. But I mean, I am excited or interested to see like what happens in the next few days with even teams that played this weekend in the Sweet 16. I think there's going to be a lot of underclassmen on teams just trying to see what they're worth out there, and we'll see guys leaving teams that are in pretty good situations, but the money's better somewhere else, and they might see the opportunity to come to an Indiana or go to a Purdue or go somewhere where the NIL money is just different. And lucky for us as Indiana fans and people that, you know, we're one of the schools that has, you know, we've got football type NIL money when it comes to basketball, and that's a good place to be in this portal situation.
Don, to get back to your point, Houston loses Jamal Sheed in that game against Duke, and that just pretty much, and they still fought well, but were not able to overcome that loss. And their floor leader, and we could be looking at Houston in the Final Four. Instead, they lose to Duke, who lost to North Carolina State. But Houston, their offense was predicated on those guards, and
right.
Boy, that was just a gigantic loss.
Well, here's what I will tell you. I think it's going to be King Kong against Godzilla in the championship game, because Connecticut is better than anybody that's played at this point during the tournament. I mean, they're blowing people away. It's not even close in most of those ball games. And I think Purdue is a basketball team that at this juncture is playing. They're probably playing as good as they can play at this point. And so I just think it's going to be those two teams. Now you can't say that North Carolina State couldn't finally get a way to get it done, because they are amazing. They are won 9 straight games now. And what they did in the ACC tournament was just incredible. In my opinion, you win 5 games in 5 days against that competition, with guys having buys for, they only played 3 games at that point. I mean, what they've done at this point is just incredible. So you cannot discount that team. I mean, North Carolina State's playing their best basketball, and they've got pieces. They've got pretty good pieces. I saw. How
about that DJ Daniels dude?
Who?
You mean DJ Burns? DJ
Burns, rather. He's the Jack Golke of big men right now.
Well, he's got the same kind of touch that Malik Renew's got.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that same kind of ability to find a way to get the ball in the basket. And if Malik puts on a few pounds, he could be that guy. But I mean, honestly,
I don't think anyone on the coaching staff's rooting for that.
I know they're not, and I'm not rooting for it either. But he's unique in that way, and to be on a
great footwork,
right? And to be on a run like they're on, and they've got nice pieces there too. So, but I think it's going to be Purdue, UConn, and I think it's going to be an incredible ball game. I really do.
I agree with you, Don. Todd, I'm sure you do too. I mean, they're the 2 best teams that we've seen all year. Houston was up there, but like I said, they lost Jamal Sheed, boom, and they go out of dominance. These are the 2 teams that dominated people all year. And UConn is, when I was at the state finals, so we were watching the Illinois game on TV, but I was kind of busy, and I leaned over, and all of a sudden it was a 20-point bulge, and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, well, Illinois couldn't have picked a worse day to play like they played yesterday. Yeah. And I mean, they shot the ball. I didn't look at the stats, but probably as bad as they shot it in any game throughout the season, which was unfortunate to be in that, get themselves to that position. And then, they just, if they had shot halfway decent in the first half, they would have had a decent sized lead. I mean, they had UConn. They got UConn on the day someone was going to beat UConn. They just played worse, unfortunately. Yeah. And when you look at this is what, like, I agree with you, Don. Like, I think us old school kind of basketball people want to see that Purdue UConn game in the end, because they're both kind of built pretty similarly. They've both got a big guy inside. They're built the way we remember teams being built years ago. Now, the scary part is, honestly, I'm not sure UConn's going to get there. And the only reason I say that is because Alabama could beat anyone on any given night. If they shoot the ball well, I mean, when you look at their shot chart, it's the antithesis of Indiana. Like, every single shot is a three-pointer if it's not a dunk. And so, I looked up the stats. Indiana shot 513 three-pointers on the year, and Alabama shot 1,085. More than twice as many. It's just the number is staggering. Looking at their shot chart just blows your mind because it's hilarious. It's actually kind of funny. And if they get hot,
yeah,
I don't care what UConn does.
You're
they're
right.
not going to beat them.
You're right. You're right.
Well, I know that if they score 89 points, I think they've lost one game. Because people talk about that Kentucky game where they lost like 114 or whatever. But if they score 89 points, they've lost one game this season. So that's their goal to run you out. Don, man, it's been a great one. Look forward to the fall. I hope you enjoy your summer. Any parting words for the masses?
Well, I've been to all the football practices thus far under Kurt Signetti, and I've not been more excited in my entire Indiana career. I go to a few spring practices occasionally. I've gone to all of them so far, and I'm going to probably go to almost every one of them. I am going to Florida for 3 or 4 days here in April 6th through the 10th or something like that. So I'm going to miss a couple. I've not been more excited about Indiana football since Bill Mallory. Just saying.
Wow.
Well, that says a lot, and I
coming
think
from you, it says a lot.
Yeah, I think that there's probably more you can see the direction. You can see the much more organized, much more just. It's all geared towards success, and Signetti seems like a guy that he doesn't take failure well.
No, he does not. And watching him on the sidelines during practices is an interesting process in itself because he stands on the sideline and he watches everything. He's watching every segment of what's going on in practices. As soon as he sees something he doesn't like, he's over there and he's saying something to him. But he basically watches. He gets in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and makes out an organizational practice schedule for each of his coaches. And then he lets them execute it. He doesn't dominate practice in any way. Other than the sense of if something he doesn't like, he's going to let them know, but he lets his coaches coach their position groups. And it's really organized. All the practices have been in the stadium, which I thought, why is he doing that? Well, I think he wants all these new players. He's got 40 new players on this football team. He wants these guys to get used to the surroundings and the facility and all those kinds of things. But he also, because he watches everything, it's right there. You know what I'm saying? And I like the way he runs his show. There's no question about that. And the guys that he's brought in skill-wise, we've never seen anything like this at Indiana. I mean, he's got quarterbacks, he's got running backs, he's got wide receivers, he's got a tight end that I love watching this kid. His name is Horton, and he is like a 6'4" kid. And I've watched him with the tight end group, and he made all of them look like they couldn't run. I mean, he's got guys. And he knows what he wants. He's got that system. He talked about his system, and we've never lost. He's never had a losing season. He talks about his system, and he's got a system, and it's as organized as anything you'll watch in college football. I'm just telling you, I'm excited.
I don't doubt you at all. Well, Don, it's going to be hard to get through the summer without you, but we look forward to.
You'll survive. You'll survive, Jimbo.
We'll make it. I get
to see him more in the summer, so I'm looking forward to it.
I got it. Have you been out playing golf, Todd? Because you got a tan, don't you?
I have, yeah.
You're making me mad.
It's been nice out, and I have not been to spring football practice.
Yeah, well, I've been to a lot of spring football, and I honest to God, as bad as I hit the ball when I came back and hit balls the other day, as bad as I hit the ball, I'm going to all the spring practices.
Well, let me know when you're down here. We'll go out and play when you're done.
All right. Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Love it.
Don Fischer, appreciate you, Bert.
See you, Joe.
Thank you, sir. The golden voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Todd, you're welcome to stick around unless you got some place to go.
I'm good for a little bit.
We've got to take a break. Up next, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joins us. Back with that and more, brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, where Indiana men's and women's coaches shows, along with football shows, are held. In addition to, it's a great place to eat.
Yeah, it is.
Great bakery, great deli. Man, they got it all. Todd knows. We're back with more right after this. You can't hear the commercials today.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Dustin Dopirak, Todd Leary.
Hey, Dustin, how are you doing, buddy? Good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Good.
Have y'all ever met?
Probably not.
Don't think so.
So,
Dustin, you sound a little bit like me.
What's that?
You got a little thing going on?
I do. Yeah.
I've had it for 2 weeks.
Got the bourbon flu?
Voice.
You guys got the bourbon flu?
No.
Don said that to me, or said that last week. He goes, when you stay out drinking all night long, and I'm like, man, it's been here for 2 weeks. I feel fine, but I can't get. I've just got a bunch of crap in my chest, and I cannot get up. I can't get it to break up or whatever. But it's my voice. It's crazy. Yeah. I've never had a deal like that go this long.
Yeah. I've had stuff like this before. Like like 2 days ago, I had like this horrendous taste in my mouth that wouldn't go away no matter how much like gum I chewed. And then like yesterday, it's been phlegm. So,
COVID?
No.
I took a self-COVID test.
Did you? I mean, I didn't. I had it not too long ago, so I feel pretty good that it's not. I mean, I had it in November.
I think I might be the only person on here that didn't get it.
No, I got it. Yeah,
I've had it twice.
Hey, I've been out in sunny California. I've been sick this whole time. All right, so we go.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday with Maxine and Dustin.
Maxine's got thoughts. Sorry.
He has always got thoughts, and we love it. She's usually right. Todd Leary with us as well. Man, what an incredible! I know you've been busy covering the Pacers, and what a win over the Lakers, by the way.
Yeah,
for the Pacers. That was huge.
Sure, no, absolutely was. Gave him 90 points 5 days after they gave him 150. So yeah, I mean, they've actually learned to play defense. They really have. Like, no kidding.
They should practice against Alabama.
I guess, yeah, if you can make that work. But yeah, no, I mean, definitely come a long way. I mean, just it's not fixed. It's not like they can do that every night, holding somebody to 90. But the simple fact that they can hold anybody to 90 ever, much less hold LeBron James and Anthony Davis to 90 5 days after they gave him 150, just tells you a lot about how far they've come. So,
Todd, I know you watch a lot of ball, but do you get a chance to watch much NBA?
I really don't. I really don't. During the college season, there's so many different games on, and I'm a nerd. Like, I like watching the Western Athletic Conference and all those goofy games across the country. So, like, I don't watch. I watch as soon as the playoff starts, like the play-in games. I really enjoy. These guys play so hard. Obviously, they're best athletes in basketball in the world. So I love, once the playoffs start, watching the NBA.
Yeah, and it will be fun. It would be fun to see the Pacers as they're holding on to that number 6 spot. Again, staying away from having to play the Celtics in the playoffs and play the play-in game.
Yeah,
so far. But it seems like they're getting it back. They were rolling before the All-Star break, and then they came out of that. It was kind of a little discombobulated for a minute, but they seem like they're getting back into that rhythm.
Yeah, no, I mean, it starts with Tyrese Halliburton's back to starting to make shots again. I mean, that's obviously a big piece, is when your best player is having a hard time getting the 3-ball to go down, and that's it's not so much of what he does. Obviously, he has so many parts to his game, but it was still critical once they traded Buddy Hield. I mean, they lost their number one volume 3-point shooter. And so they kind of needed Halliburton to be the guy that you know, kind of kept that up. I mean, they went and got Doug McDermott as part of that deal, but Doug was out with a calf strain. So basically you hadn't replaced any of the Buddy Hield, 3-point numbers. And so then Halliburton all of a sudden goes on a slump. And I think he was 20 of his first 93 after the break. So it's like around 21%. And that's not certainly what you need from your all-star. Shooting wise, he was doing a lot of other things well, but just couldn't get a 3-ball to go down. So that started, you know, he started hitting some threes on this past road trip when they went out to California. Pascal Siakam has been dominant. I think he's been really good ever since they got him, but really kind of kicked it up a notch. Over this past break, I think he had 5 games in a row, or it was at least 4 in a row where he had 25 or more. And he's getting you 8-9 rebounds and 4 or 5 assists. You know, he's a guy who can create as well as he can score. And they got some other pieces to come together as well. So that was helpful. And like I said, I mean, they have been playing better defense. They're not a great defensive team, but they're a better defensive team than they were. When the season started. I think since the break, they're like 15th in defensive rating. And so it's dramatically better than they were. I mean, there was time that they were, bottom of the barrel in just about any important defensive metric you wanted to look at. It helped basically some of the moves they've made, some of the guys they've lost. Buddy's
didn't like those moves.
Best defensive player. What's up?
Maxine did not like those moves.
She did not.
She did not approve of that message.
She might have been the court.
That's sometimes if you make her mad enough, she'll do that. As I think we might have lost Dustin. But next thing I was going to ask him, though, is I know he doesn't get to see a lot of college games right now, but Zach Edey, and will his game translate to the NBA? I know he's such in college. He is one of the most dominant big men of all time right now.
Right? Yeah.
And that's freaking saying something. We're talking Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Walton, Ralph Sampson. You're going back, but he's like nothing. He's like Yao Ming in college. I mean, Yao Ming wasn't as thick as
he didn't play in college, did he?
Yeah, no, but he wasn't as thick either. But let's see. Get Dustin back. There you go, brother.
I'm back.
Dustin, sorry. I was going to ask you next. I know you don't get to see a ton of college games right now, but Zach Edey and his game, will it be able to transfer to the NBA? Because on defense mainly, they play a lot of zone where he's camping out in the paint, but he doesn't go very far, and he's not going to be able to do that in the NBA. Her 3-second rule.
He's going to have some problems, but there are a non-zero number of guys of his, not of his size, but that are big, bulky dudes that have a hard time moving laterally that can hang in there. So I mean, because it's not a very deep draft, he's going to get a crack at it. I mean, I think he's going to be a first-round pick, maybe late first round or whatever. It's worth somebody taking a flyer, because there's a handful of guys that you look at and say, okay, if those guys can do it, he at least is worth a flyer. So Yusuf Nurkic, with Phoenix, Jonas Valanciunas for New Orleans, they're built different. Like they're more like really big Yugoslavian dudes, like very, very wide guys who could just set big screens and rebound and stuff like that and play drop coverage in a pick and roll, and they still have a chance to be okay defenders. He did pretty good. I mean, he did the combine last year, and it was notable that he did a little bit better in some of the movement scores than people were expecting from him. So it still wasn't good enough to get him picked. And last year was a deeper draft. I mean, Trace went 57th. I mean, that tells you something. Like, obviously, there's a whole bunch of other pieces at play there in terms of, he didn't want to be a two-way, and so there were teams that weren't going to pick him if he wasn't willing to be a two-way, and obviously Golden State didn't need him to be a two-way. So that went a long way for him and changed the dynamic there. So I mean, he probably wasn't the 57th guy, but still, I mean, in Edey's case, he's not going to be as just far back. There's going to be other, he's got a chance to go higher. Where like if Trace went in this draft, he'd be a top 25 pick. probably, because there's just, not as many people who fit. But I mean, he's going to get a crack at it. But like there is an issue, though. Obviously, the reason why he hasn't already been, grabbed at is because, the game has changed. It's spaced out, like 10, 15 years ago, he might be the number one pick. Now basically, like, guys, there's just so much pick and roll, and like your 5-man is put in that 1-5 pick and roll position so many times. It's just so it's everything basically in the league. Not everything, but you know what I mean. Like, the bottom line is you're frequently being dragged out on the perimeter and asked to try to keep a guard in front of you. And obviously, presumably, he's going to struggle with that because it's going to be the fastest guys with a basketball in their hand in the world. And again, like, you can hide them and drop and send them back a little bit. Certainly the risk, of course, that you run is somebody's going to hit shots over you and it's going to get clean looks. But it works for some guys. And again, he can be effective drop coverage guy. I think he's going to be able to rebound. Certainly has just magnificent touch. And he's going to have to move a little bit more in the offensive game because, I mean, on the flip side, not a lot of teams just put you on the block basically in the NBA anymore. I mean, like, you're in movement and you're doing screen and roll stuff and getting lobs and everything like that. So he's going to have to play a different kind of game. But I mean, I guess kind of what he does is adjust. I mean, I think that, like, it's funny to talk about him because, like, he was like, well, everybody doubted me. Well, yeah, everybody doubted you because you really didn't play high school basketball. You barely
right.
did. I mean, like, he is such a project. I mean, it's been fascinating to watch how it's been done. And you got to credit everybody all the way down the line. I mean, he got recruited. He committed, my second year covering Purdue at The Athletic. And I just told the story on Twitter yesterday. I mean, like, he walked in the building. It was for, like, Purdue's preseason inter-squad scrimmage. They don't have a Hoosier Hysteria. Like, it's basically like they have a Purdue football game. And if you want to come a couple hours in over early to Mackey and watch like 3 scrimmages, Hoosier Hysteria for them. But I remember, like, Edie walks in the building with his mom, and like, they had just missed out on Hunter Dickinson and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Those were 2 targets they had in that class for big men, and they needed a 5, desperately. And I remember looking at Brian Newbert, who's like the rivals guy for Purdue, who's been there for a long time, great dude, and knows all this stuff and obviously connected with that staff. I'm like, do you know who that is? He's like, no. He's a big dude. He's got to be somebody. And so then I guess he just asked around. He's like, his name is Zach Edey. And so we looked him up, and he barely had a picture yet because he'd been to
a hockey player.
Yeah, he'd been a hockey player, been a baseball player. And when I talked to him, like, he had not, he said, like, I didn't just not play basketball. Like, it's not like I just found it. He's like, I actively avoided it. Like, I was really big. I thought I'd get pigeonholed in playing basketball. I didn't want any part of it. Basically, I didn't want to be, stuck in that position. But somebody said, hey, man, do you want to come play rec league? And I was like, that'll be fun. And then I thought it was awesome. Just like, man, that's like, wow. But like, you avoided that like until you were 16. And then you're like, well, this is the best thing in the world. It's like, yeah.
So Dustin, let me ask you this. So you'll be able to tell I don't watch a ton of NBA, but so the last NBA game I did watch was the Pacers versus Milwaukee. And so I intentionally watched that game from the standpoint of I wanted to see the movement that Lopez, is it Brook Lopez? That Brook Lopez did going up and down the floor. Yeah. In relation to how Zach Edey would translate. Right. And there wasn't a single movement that Brook Lopez did throughout that game that Zach Edey couldn't do.
That's another guy who's
he makes a lot of threes. But when he came into the league, he didn't. He wasn't that kind of 3-point shooter. Right. So that's why when people say something to me about that now, I think a team's going to find a spot for him because I think he can do some things some guys in the league already do. Like, he has the same weakness Brook Lopez has.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like, Brooks just happens to be probably the best drop coverage defender in the NBA.
I agree. While we wait to get Dustin back, he brought up Trace Jackson Davis, and he's another one that there was a lot of doubts whether he can make it in the NBA because of the lack of shooting. And I didn't think he was going to really be able to make it because of that. But he's proved all of us wrong, or all of us doubters wrong. And he's thriving at Golden State, especially because you got Draymond Green getting kicked out about every other game.
Right. And I also think along the lines of that, I think the highlights, I think Trace will play in the league for a long time. But I think the highlights we're going to see of Trace 8 years from now will be a lot different from the highlights we see now because someone's going to teach him how to shoot. every single highlight you see of him right now is either a lob dunk or a cut to the basket or some athletic play that he's making. And as much as I love Trace and as much as I think Trace is a uniquely athletic, talented player, I don't think that's going to be sustainable for 8 years. There's going to be, once he gets to be 30, there's going to be a 23-year-old that's bigger and stronger and more physical and athletic than him. But I do think he has good enough touch. I think he'll translate into a decent mid-range jump shooter. That's why he'll end up staying in the league.
The one thing about Edey is, you talked about his touch. He's a great free throw shooter.
Yeah, he's a good free throw shooter.
For a big man. They usually don't have that kind of, in the NBA they do, but usually in college they just don't have that kind of touch from there. Hell, look at Indiana and the troubles they had shooting free throws. None of their guys were shooting very well for a long time. Mackenzie Abako did, Cups did, but man, they struggled at the free throw line, and Zach Edey just flipped his wrist.
Edey, once he gets to the NBA, also he'll become an even better shooter because he's got a little flaw with his shot that will get fixed immediately as soon as he gets to the NBA, and when that happens, he's going to become an 80% free throw shooter.
We need to get him hooked up with myjumpshot.com.
Yeah, he's going to get hooked up with somebody. Trust me, he'll do just fine.
And speaking of the devil, myjumpshot.com, of course. If you have any kids, know of anybody that is working on their jump shot, that needs to work on their jump shot, and I'm not talking about anybody on the Indiana team. I'm talking about people that you know personally. Make sure you reach out to myjumpshot.com and it'll get fixed. Todd's working with several people of note around right now. No names, but a lot of people. I've had people reach out to me and to get hooked up. And there are some people that would surprise you, but it's because they want to get better. They want to do everything they can to get better, and things like this is what it takes.
Yeah, the difference between the top players in the country. I mean, when you walk into a big time AAU event and you see the players that are in there, there's a small difference between, the top outside of athletically. When you talk about their physical talent, there's such a minute difference in talent level between the top 100 players in the country.
I think that, Dustin, are you back? Well, it's a good time to take a break because that's what we have to do. We've got to take a quick break. We've got lots more coming up on the show today. Looking forward to Travis. Well, Travis Miller is going to join us, and he's a really very happy man because he's a writer from the rival site for Purdue, and they are celebrating. And hopefully we'll get Todd back for one more segment because I didn't get to talk to you unless you have to go, like you said. Talk some hoops. College hoops, Final Four, Purdue breaks the streak. North Carolina State, both teams have not been to the Final Four in over 40 years. All that and more brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. We're back with more right after this. I went a little long there.
Hey, I just saw on Twitter that Leland Walker is not visiting today.
That's what I said. He's canceling.
Oh, okay. You said you got that. That's good.
Yep.
Did he cancel it or is he rescheduling it?
It's supposed to be rescheduled. There's Dustin.
Sorry about this. I don't know why the Wi-Fi keeps shorting out today.
That's all right, man.
Apparently what it is.
When what's the schedule? They're home for a while?
They're home tonight. They play at Brooklyn on Wednesday, home over the weekend for Oklahoma City, Miami, then Toronto next Tuesday. So I'm not going on these road trips because they're one-offs. Usually I don't, but I'm going to Cleveland next Friday. And then the season ends. Then
who doesn't want to go to Cleveland?
Exactly. Nothing wrong with Cleveland. Cleveland downtown's all right. I'm not talking about the greater Cleveland, but downtown Cleveland's not bad.
Yeah, I'm kidding. No. All cities are pretty much good. Big cities.
more or less.
Unless you're out west. They used to be, and they have gone to hell.
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, there are issues. I think I know which issue you're talking about.
Yes, serious issues.
It is tough, but it's still they're not bad places to be. And we were just in LA and San Francisco this weekend, or last weekend. So LA is still
Francisco.
San Francisco is still gorgeous. I mean, I feel like we didn't have. I never have a chance to really do San Francisco because it's just so expensive to stay downtown. So I stayed in Brisbane, and it's like, there's this little, kind of industrial park in Brisbane I've stayed in the last 2 years. And it's like, I don't know, just these palaces of Silicon Valley offices and the Bay. It's amazing.
The Bay.
Maxine's got thoughts. No, you were talking about Trace, and we might be able to talk about this, but so I got to talk to him and Sheehy over the weekend. So I'm gonna over last weekend. So I'm gonna have a story about Sheehy this week. But Sheehy says Trace can rip it. I mean, I do think it's just a question of everybody trusting it and putting in positions to do it.
Where is fortunately for him, he plays with Draymond Green, so he's going to get all the opportunities he wants.
He's going to get a lot. Well, not only that, I mean, he's won the backup shot. So that's the thing. For a while, it was still Looney and Sarek, but basically Looney's taken a back step, and they've been okay, we got to play Trace.
Where is Sheehy now?
We can go ahead and go live.
With the Warriors.
Yeah, it's time we go live anyway,
go
so
ahead.
we can.
Okay.
I just was wait. All right,
sure.
So we can go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio here on this Monday. And lots of basketball. Of course, don't forget, are brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg for you down in Southern Indiana. Go see our good friend Dr. J. Keep that championship smile. And a ton of college basketball, of course, as the Final Four was set over this weekend, and some great games, except for the Illinois game with UConn, which was a great game until somebody flipped a switch.
UConn turned it on, man.
I've never seen a 30-0 run, man. That was insane.
I've seen it, just not often in tournaments. I think I want to say the one time I can remember a 30-0 run or something along those lines. I want to say it was 2008 when Kansas got dusted by Carolina. Or Carolina got dusted by Kansas, and then Carolina came back and routed everybody the next year. I feel like there was a ridiculous run where Kansas just blasted.
Yeah, and Todd, I don't know if you got to see that game, but I was at the state finals, like I said, and I looked over and saw the score, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Because this was a 1-point game. And with just a few minutes before the half.
You talking about UConn and Illinois?
Yeah. And then UConn started that run, and then they come out of the half on a 25-1 run, which it's were you ever in a game on either side of one of those that long?
Yeah, but not in a tournament game. Remember, we lost to Minnesota by 50 one year.
Right, but was it just a gigantic run like that?
Well, when you lose by 50, there's several gigantic runs that take place. They might not be to 0. I mean, what was that yesterday? 30-0 or 28-0 or something like
30-0.
That I don't remember anything like that ever happening. But I mean, there had to be some gigantic runs in order to get up by 50. So I mean, I don't know the numbers, but yeah, that one yesterday, that was. Man, when you talk about momentum is the hardest thing. Remember in our post-game shows, I would talk about when one team would steal the momentum from you, how hard it is to get that back and to get the momentum back. And, that's just what happened yesterday. It just magnified. Unfortunately for Illinois, it happened in their biggest game of the year. And I don't have a reason to root for Illinois. They were a fun team to watch. I thought yesterday's game was going to be a fun game to watch, but it was the opposite. It was pretty miserable.
Yeah, but most of UConn's games have been that way.
Yeah,
they have thundered through.
But
people.
They were there to beat yesterday. They were there. That first half that they played, they should have been down 10+.
At the Tennessee Purdue game, there was a point in that game at the towards the end of the first half. Tennessee had an 11-point lead. Everything was going well, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't, and Purdue goes on a big run. I think that it was like a 15-2 run that they went on, and that's when that game flipped.
Yeah, that game yesterday was every team that goes throughout the year. Last year, we kind of have to forget about what UConn did last year because teams winning by 20 plus all the way throughout the tournament is just not a thing. That just doesn't happen. And they were fortunate. They were very fortunate to catch Illinois the way they caught them yesterday, because that if Illinois plays well at all, that game probably turns out differently because UConn did not play very good in the first half. And when you look at what Purdue was able to do in coming back from being down 11 to taking the lead, I think they went on. They were down 11. I think they went on a 12-0 run to come back and take the lead. That's the sign of a team that's matured a lot. I'm not sure last year's freshman guards would have been able to do what they did. I think Lance Jones helps out a bunch in that, but all of them just being a year older. I'm not sure if they didn't have the experience they had last year in the NCAA tournament, they would have flipped it around yesterday as quickly as they did.
Yeah, Dustin, that it was just some fun games to watch. Like I said, I know your job keeps you away from that. But
I was clean this weekend, so I got to we were up in my mother-in-law's place watching. So all I did was watch college basketball weekend because they were off Saturday and Sunday. So I got to watch all the Elite Eight games. But yeah, I think I saw a quote from Danny Hurley saying that like his team systematically just dismantles you. And I get it. They made Illinois look like they forgot how to make a layup. But it's just like they just challenge everything you do. They just make everything hard for you to do on defense. They've got, obviously with the big guy in the middle with Klingon, but they've just got length and athleticism everywhere else. And they get downhill and they make shots from mid-range, from outside, from inside. There's just, and again, that starting five is just really, really good. Like Newton and Castle and Spencer and Klingon, and Caravan. That's a really, good five at college basketball at this level. They're really well coached. They're fantastic, man. And I think obviously again they were gettable in that first half, but they really turned it on. Did little stuff remarkably well, transition passing their quarterbacks. It was just just everything Illinois did wrong, they capitalized on so drastically, and you saw Illinois just stumble. They just did not know how to answer this, and they just could not get off the mat. So I think there's something to UConn. I get there's probably some luck to it. That's a really good basketball team, man. Those guys are really, really good, and it's going to be tough for somebody to beat them. If they pull off a second one in a row, it's going to be with a dramatically different team. Obviously, they're still going to have Klingon, but there's a bunch of new guys on that team that have still, just jumped into that system and been phenomenal. So they look really, really good. Again, Edey is Edey, and so he's going to give Purdue a shot. I'm trying. Alabama, just their ability to score is just going to keep them around. DJ Burns is going to keep North Carolina State in it, but
that's the matchup I want to talk about. DJ Burns and Zach Edey. Watching DJ Burns yesterday, he was amazing. Just the way he moved for that size. He was, but I guarantee you, Edey's watching that tape because he kind of had those moves. But I'm wondering if he's going to be able to get over Edey.
He's not.
That's what I was thinking. I'm going, you know what? Edey's going to block those shots, or half of those shots he's putting up right now.
No, a lot of them. You have when you're dealing with a guy like Edey, you just have a smaller, margin for error. Basically, it's just there's a lot of stuff. Obviously, you watched how many years of Trace, going up against Edey, and there was just so many moves, so many slick things that Trace could do to get to the rim that are not there. When he plays Edey, because just the wingspan, the size, the bulk, everything, he just changes the geometry of the game so drastically in terms of what you can get away with. And Burns is going to find the same thing. But he does obviously have the body that he's going to be able to keep Edey away from the ball and get some separation and have a chance. Guys Edey and Klingon are going to have a chance the way a lot of guys don't against, or not Edey and Klingon. Klingon and Burns are going to have a chance in the way a lot of guys don't against Edey. But still, it is, no, DJ Burns is not going to have nearly the same amount, the same kind of opportunity, but he does have really good feet. He just, his moves around the rim are tremendous. And so, that's going to give him a shot at it. that doesn't mean he's going to be able to dominate him, but he's at least going to have a chance where, most guys, certainly anybody that, Tennessee has some, anybody Tennessee threw around couldn't do the same thing. But, Burns is going to have a chance against Edey in a way that not a lot of other people can.
And if it turns out the way we think it is, then it's going to be a Zach Edey versus Donovan Clingan. And UConn has an advantage because of their front court is they're just better. They've got NBA guys on there, and I'm not knocking Purdue. I'm not Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, but they're not what UConn has. UConn has NBA level guys, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm supposed to agree with you because you're the host, but I don't agree with you.
I
don't think Cam Spencer is I think he fits their system pretty well. I don't think he's that great of a player. He's not a great athlete. He's not going to overpower Lance Johnson or anybody like that. He moves well without the ball. That's probably his superpower on that team. Tristan Newton is the guy. He runs their entire show. If you can disrupt Tristan Newton, you've got a chance at disrupting UConn. And that doesn't happen very often. I think he's probably the most valuable player on any team throughout the country, and I'm including Zach Edey on Purdue in that. I think Purdue could still probably win without Zach Edey playing incredible. I'm not sure UConn can win without Tristan Newton being the guy who controls the entire game. And so that to me is where when you look at the matchups that happened in this Final Four, I think UConn is going to face two teams. Well, let's assume Purdue wins. I shouldn't assume that, but let's assume Purdue wins. They're going to face two teams potentially in Alabama and Purdue that are different than anyone they've played all year long. And the Big East did not have teams they didn't have anyone that was like Purdue, not even close. He's going to face someone that's as big as him, Clingan, for the first time all season long. And then they didn't have anybody that ran around and shot three-pointers like Alabama does. And so I want to see that matchup. I'm that guy that wants to look ahead and see Edey versus Clingan. I want to see the two, what Fish call it, Godzilla versus King Kong. I want to see that matchup. But I think I don't think they will. I think Danny Hurley's awesome. I love the system he's built. I don't think they'll overlook Alabama, but I don't think you have to overlook Alabama for Alabama to beat you, because if they get hot, they'll beat anyone. They'll beat Purdue if they get hot.
That's true. That's 100%.
Their three-point shooting is it's pretty lethal. They take so many of them, like you pointed out. It's like twice as many.
1,085 three-point shots they took this year. In relation, Indiana shot 513.
Jeez.
That's crazy.
And then what did they shoot as a team, I wonder? Because that's a lot. That's just
38%. 38%.
Holy cow.
That'll do it. Yeah.
But this was a stat I saw yesterday, in that out of, I think it was, I'm gonna misspeak this number, but it was like, I'm not gonna say it right. They only took between the 3-point line and 16 feet throughout the year. They only took, like, I want to say 60 shots throughout the entire season. Like, it was a crazy. I'm sorry I didn't write the stat down when I saw it, but it was a crazy stat in that they don't take mid-range shots. Alabama, that is. They take 3-pointers or dunks or layups. And that's a system that I think we're going to see a lot. I mean, Indiana State's kind of similar to that.
You want to hear a craziest stat, I think, ever in college basketball? Did I send you that thing on Goki, that guy that was ripping Calipari? Oh, it's funny. I'll send it to you to watch. But Jack Goki, the kid that transferred from Hillsdale College to Oakland and single-handedly took Kentucky out of the tournament this year, he has, on the entire season, Todd, he took 8 2-point shots.
I saw that. That's not as unusual as you think. You'd be surprised. There are a lot more guys that are like that than you think.
It just blows my mind. Dustin, we appreciate you, my friend. I hope you get feeling better, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
Sounds good. See you guys. See you, Todd.
Hey, buddy. Yep.
Todd, again, you're always welcome to stay as long as you want, man.
I got to roll now.
And but we love having you.
Stat yesterday. You want to hear the craziest stat? You can talk about this when I'm gone.
Yeah.
The last time the leading scorer in the country, which is Zach Edey, made the Final Four. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Like 1960
Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson, the last time the leading scorer in the country made it to the Final Four. That baffled me. I just couldn't get that out of my head all night. That's crazy.
Yeah, because you would think the team that makes, especially even before the transfer portal, when you had teams that were really good.
Yeah,
it's like, how is that not Duke? Those great Duke teams, those great Florida teams. There's just been great teams, high scoring teams. Yeah. Alabama, for God's sakes, you shoot all that, but it's amazing. Not only that, he's doing things, Edey, and I'm one of the idiots. Tomorrow when Robbie's on, I heard him on the radio say, anybody that thinks Edey is just about size is an idiot. And I'm like, well, that puts me in that category. And I'm going to acknowledge to him that I was, one of his idiots. But man,
but here's where that statement doesn't make any sense. If Zach Edey was 6'8", he wouldn't be doing all this. So there's a lot about his size.
Right.
Now there's not very many 7'4" guys, so we don't have a ton to compare him to, but he does things other 7'4" guys can't do. I said this to you a million times. You've heard it. There's a ton of I've seen in person and played with a ton of 7-footers. There's not a lot of people the same size as Shaq. Shaq's a 7-footer that's just different. And Edey is a 7'4" guy that's just different.
Yep. He's like a mountain. You can't move him.
Yeah.
He's crazy. Todd Leary will be joining us each Monday, man. Can't wait, brother. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yep. You're the best. Thanks.
We've got to take a break. Up next, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload will join us, and we'll talk about Purdue's first Final Four in 44 years as they break that seal. Also, North Carolina State, the same kind of story. Haven't been to the Final Four since 1983 with Jim Valvano. Great matchup. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this. Oh, mercy. Hey, Travis, I'm surprised you don't have well, look at you.
I had to.
Look at you. You're supposed to be not biased.
Yeah, right. Last year when Kokomo made the state finals against Ben Davis,
that's different.
I actually busted out my KHS letter jacket from 1998.
Your Smedium? Was it a Smedium?
No, it fit, man. It still fits.
Well, Robbie's coming on tomorrow. I was trying to get him on either today or Friday, but tomorrow worked out better for him. But I was driving, so I listened to the last half on the road and got to listen to him, and which was cool. And he got really emotional, and you have, and I'll wait to say this, but yeah, Matt Painter, boy, you want to talk about getting a monkey off your back. It was a gorilla on his back. It wasn't a monkey. It was a gorilla.
We can go ahead and go live, Jim, because I can just put the commercials in later. So here, while you're on the subject, so here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. Brought to you by our good friends down in Clarksville for our Southern Indiana peeps, right off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. They've got over 50 TVs in there for you to watch the NCAA tournament and much more. Food made fresh every day, and it's incredible. Joining us now, Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, and things have to be pretty exciting up in West Lafayette, brother.
It is wow. I honestly did not know what to do yesterday when that clock.
Wow, look at the beat. Look at the glow on your face.
It's I kept wondering if there was going to be some sort of review, if Mamadi Diakate was going to come out and like, oh, he actually hit a 6-pointer. We're going to overtime. But I just kind of collapsed on the floor. My son tackled me. It was just, this is a moment, and I saw this all evening yesterday. I just spent hours scrolling through Twitter and seeing all the reactions, and this is just it's such a moment that was such a long time coming for this Purdue nation and all the fans and everything. It wasn't just the 44-year drought. It was all of the near misses in the 44 years. I counted it up. There were 12 teams that had a very legitimate shot to make a Final Four in that, and probably should have made a Final Four somewhere in there. That just, for whatever reason, didn't make it. Isaac Haas's elbow, Robbie Hummel's knee, the game against Virginia, Glenn Robinson in '94, the 1988 team that got beat by a Kansas State team they had blown out by 30.
Who was Robbie? Robbie Hummel hurt his knee one year. Who was on that squad?
That was the Juwan Johnson, Etuan Moore team. And even the next year, where Hummel missed the whole season, Purdue was still a 3 seed and had a very good chance to make a Final Four, and got run off the court by VCU during VCU's amazing run. So, it was an incredible game. You got to give a ton of credit to Tennessee. Dalton Connect, man, he did everything he could. But Zach Edey, for everything that he has done for this program, to drop 40 points in the game that finally breaks the streak and breaks everything that went wrong over the last 44 years, it was incredible. And then that moment yesterday where he cuts the net, and the first thing he does is he takes his piece of the net, he cuts it in half.
Wait a minute. First of all, you're not saying he cut the net standing from the floor. He did not use the ladder. He just reached up to cut the net.
Yes. But he takes that piece of net and he cuts it in half, and he immediately goes to Gene Cady and hands him a piece of the net and
Very
shakes
cool.
his hand and gives him a hug. That is, honestly, it was a little dusty everywhere for Purdue fans when that happened. That is the only moment I have ever wanted to see as a Purdue fan. Gene Cady finally gets to see this program reach a Final Four. He was hired roughly 2 weeks after the last time that they made a Final Four, and they never got there again until yesterday. And that he was still with us, and he was able to see that and be in the building and experience it. That is just, it's something that Purdue fans have wanted for such a long time. And to me, that's the best moment of yesterday, was him getting that piece of net. And it's I'm sounding
sure
like Robbie Hummel right now.
I'm sure it was an amazing conversation between Matt Painter and Gene Cady, because of course he is it was a passing of the torch from those two. It was not like he was brought in, and so that's something you don't get to see very often. It doesn't usually happen that way. But a 17-year drought for Matt Painter on getting his teams in. So finally he gets his team into a Final Four, and Houston, you talk about the misses. Indiana had that happen. There's several times that Scott May broke his arm, when Alan Henderson's knee, like Robbie Hummel, and then Houston, they lose their point guard during the game, and that probably changed the outcome of that game. But that happens every year, and it's just the survival of the fittest. Purdue gets by yesterday. Zach Edey scores 40. Mainly because he couldn't get anybody else to score. They could not hit a three-pointer to save their life.
Yeah, and honestly, that was one of if Purdue had hit their threes, they win that game going away. And that's what I had dreaded all year, is that they would have the game where they just did not shoot well from three. And even then, Lance Jones, with 2:43 left, he rattles one home in a 3-point game, doubles the lead. And I don't think Tennessee got within a possession after that. And so I'm equating that Lance Jones 3 right up there with the Breeze to Morales play from 2000 in football, where Purdue didn't clinch the Rose Bowl with that play, but it is the play that everybody remembers. And a year ago right now, no Purdue fans had any idea who Lance Jones was. And when he signed and was the big incoming transfer, there was kind of a collective like, okay, yeah, he's a decent player, but is he really going to fit with this team and whatnot? And the reason Purdue's in the Final Four is Lance Jones. He changed everything with the backcourt, and to be able to hit arguably the biggest three-pointer in the history of the program, he's going down as a Purdue immortal right now. He'll only spend 1 year in West Lafayette, but he has embraced this culture and this team. They have embraced him, and it was great to see him knock that shot down. And I think that is that's one of those shots that will not be forgotten for a very long time.
Well, the guy that's going to go down as immortal is Zach Edey.
Well, the whole team's going to go down as immortal after this. I mean,
well, in West Lafayette, maybe. I don't know about everywhere else, but Zach Edey will go down as immortal in college basketball as one of the greatest big men to play the game. Dominant, the most dominant. I've said before, and it pisses Purdue fans off, that I don't think he's the greatest basketball player. And what I mean by that is a certain, skill levels that LeBron James, he's playing guard, he's playing forward, he can play center. But anyway, he's still the most dominant player in college basketball, regardless. And I'll say that all day long because he dominates games. He changes games. You have to, your game plan is Zach Edey. But what really it's doing what Tennessee tried to do, take away Purdue's front court. And they did a pretty good job with that. And that's what you have to do because Edey's going to get his. But you saw yesterday that even when that happens, you've got to find a way to slow Edey down. And that was the thing. They could not slow him down enough. He got 40 points. If he gets 30, which is a lot, that still changes that game entirely. He lived at the free throw line because they just kept he was able to draw, I think, 16 fouls, and he hits his free throws. So again, that's another important thing. He's a good free throw shooter for a big man. That takes touch because when you're 7'4", that's a completely different trajectory and a completely different angle of shooting that free throw. He did airball one. I heard as I was driving back, but that didn't matter much. But that probably just showed a little bit of the fatigue wearing on him. He played virtually the entire game.
Yeah, and yesterday he actually moved into third place all time in the Big Ten in scoring. He passed Steve Alford, Mike McGee, and Glenn Rice, all because they were all within 6 points of each other. Probably not going to get in the top two. Maybe get past Sean Respert if he plays both games in the Final Four and just has, an unbelievable performance. Not going to catch Calbert Chaney, but you're right. I mean, few guys are as dominant as he is. I mean, basically, you can put 25 points on the board for Purdue to start the game. He's going to, like you said, he's going to get hits. I'm looking at his stats. He has not scored less than 20 points since the February 4th game at Wisconsin. He had 18 in that. He has been at 22 or more in every single game since then. And I mean, that's a great starting point for any team right there, is knowing that you have 20, 22, 23, 24 points on the board before the game starts. And just, this is his reward too. I mean, he knew, he heard all the vibes. He heard everything that was said about this team after the Fairleigh Dickinson loss. And you could just tell all season long, he was laser focused. And I think yesterday was really the first day after the game where he just kind of let it all out. And, you don't become a two-time National Player of the Year without having talent, without being dominant in everything. And like you said, he is going to go down as one of the most dominant players in the history of college basketball. And, I can't even dream. I don't even want to think about winning a national title yet. But the fact that Purdue is still playing basketball in April, that is a testament to what he has done and what he is able to do.
Another thing I was thinking about yesterday is they have something that nobody else has. They have a team that has played together for 2 years. They don't have but they have one transfer, so they don't have this abundance of different faces. Virtually every guy that's a part of what they're doing and doing well right now has been there. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith had to grow up, and Braden had a little bit of trouble yesterday, but he still managed to be good, to do the things he needed to do and find other ways to help the team. I think that Braden Smith he's what makes that team go. I know Zach Edey is the scores the most points and all that, but there's so much more to that. You've got to be able to get the ball to him to facilitate. And Braden Smith has really, you can tell he's worked very, very hard, and he's played very well. Yesterday was probably his first less than spectacular game, I guess you'd call it, because Tennessee that's what they had to do. They had to try to shut those guys down. And I don't know if that's why they, didn't hit the threes at the normal rate they hit. They're the number one team in the country at that. And when you have a team that's number one in the country shooting threes and Mount Edie, man, that's pretty damn good. But then we look on the other side at UConn, and they're doing, the same things. That Illinois game blew my mind. That it was, they're a 1-2 point game. 1 second I was at the state finals, and then I look over and I'm like, they're down 20, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And so it's nuts, but it's going to be a hell of a Final Four. And the first thing I can't wait to see is Zach Edey and DJ Burns. But let's take a quick break and then come back and talk about that, because North Carolina State should not be here. But, man, they are, and unabashedly they are. So Travis Miller from Boiler Upload with us right now. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com. And Bubba's 33 of Clarksville. Back with more right after this. It doesn't matter how much I look at you, boy. You're like Superman.
Yeah. Being Clark Kent, but yeah, I'm ready for work.
Nice.
Travis, it doesn't matter how much I give props to Purdue. I get this all the time.
Nothing's bringing me down today, man.
Well, it shouldn't bring you down. They're cracking on me. He's cracking on me. Saying I'm dissing Purdue. How the hell am I dissing Purdue?
I think it's interesting. You even have some IU people congratulating Purdue right now and being like, "Wow, they actually did it."
Hey, I'm happy for Matt Painter.
Same.
I'm telling you, he is a super, super great guy. He does it the right way. And I'm talking about he never cheated. He never got into that mess. Like Duke, let me tell you, they were cheating under Mike Krzyzewski. They were flipping cheating. I don't know how long that went back. So I don't want to, I'm not going to say that's what Krzyzewski's career was based on. It wasn't. But he got into that too, just like Bill Self. They all the shoe companies get funneling players to them, and they just got away with it. Zion Williams, that would have blown up in Duke's face, and I'm shocked nobody really was able to get to the bottom of that, and it kind of pisses me off because I hate that they got away with. It's like, oh no, we're clean. North Carolina, the same damn thing. But anyway, Matt has done it right. He's done it with Indiana kids, no less. He's the new Indiana. Mm-hmm. He's the new Bob Knight.
You want to take this live? You're making salient points. I want to get you live here. So here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Post the Elite Eight and the Final Four is set in men's college basketball. The women's continue today, Travis. You got that LSU Iowa game.
Yeah,
you can't see me, baby. You can't see me.
That's going to be a good one. I may have to tune into that one tonight because that's going to be fun to watch.
That's a no doubter. You got Kim Mulkey in there, she was threatening to sue the Washington Post. Then I saw that she was ripping the LA Times. I'm like, oh, and of course you never know what kind of clown suit she's going to wear on the sideline. But
there's your Bobby Knight of women's basketball.
Exactly what I was getting ready to say. She is exactly that. And that Washington Post article that came out, it wasn't really bad. It just kind of painted her as a Bob Knight type without the tantrums and other things that went along with Bob Knight that were less than civil, I should say. I had Kyle Macy on last week.
Yeah, she's a terrible person that lacks empathy, but she's a very good basketball coach. Yes.
She is she's actually was a great player. And I mean, she's done so much. She won, I can't remember. Did she win a national title as a player? I think she did.
I think so.
And she won a Pan American gold. And then she won 3 titles at Baylor as a coach, one at LSU in her second year. I mean, hey, you got to hand it to her. She's doing it, but she's not my cup of tea. And I'm really not into the clown suit she wears. I'm like, stop trying to take it's like she's trying to take the attention away. But other than that, let's get back to the what was I talking about in the
you wanted to talk about DJ Burns and Zach Edey.
Okay, so I'm watching the North Carolina State game where they're handling Duke and handling Kyle Filipkowski, who it was shocking that he was still able to play with that incident that happened earlier in the court storming where he did not get hurt, and they pretended like it was this. Those 2 court storming incidents with him and with Caitlin Clark, I will forever not get either of those sites out of my mind because none of them got hurt. They both acted like they got killed. Filipkowski is carried off the floor, but he manages to play in the very next game. And then Caitlin Clark, when her deal happened, all you see was her hands go up in the air in this little ballerina turn that she did to fall. But both of those, it just cracked me up. But DJ Burns is a unique individual. But I was watching thinking, man, he's got some good moves. He's getting some shots off. I said, but he's not getting that shot off versus Zach Edey. Zach Edey's going to block that shot unless he's doing some step backs or some fade. And he's got touch to do that, but I think he's going to have to do that, or he's going to have to draw Zach Edey away from the basket a little bit to clear it out because he's not. I just don't see him being able to get over Zach Edey.
He's got the Zach Randolph old man's game. It's fun to watch. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup between the two. And North Carolina State is its own story. As I said, I saw on Twitter, if Virginia's best free throw shooter doesn't miss a free throw with like 6 seconds left in the ACC tournament game, North Carolina State's not even in the tournament. And to win 5 games in 5 days, steal an automatic bid, and then keep that going to the Final Four. I mean, you got goodness. They are on one heck of a heater right now, and I don't think you can look past them at all. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. There is at least a little bit of familiarity. These teams played 2 seasons ago in Brooklyn, 3 seasons ago in Brooklyn. I'm not sure how many players are still on the roster. I know Edey is still there and everything, but it was quite the matchup that they had against each other. And no, it was 2 years ago. Yeah. And it went to overtime. And that was a game where North Carolina State was in control the whole time. Travion Williams had one heck of a second half and dragged it back, got it to overtime, and Purdue won the game in overtime. But, it'll be interesting to see how these two match up. You've kind of got a really great team in Purdue. Like you said, best free throw shooting team in the country. They've got Edey, but never doubt a hot team, and NC State is about as hot as they come right now. That's going to.
Well, the irony is crazy with the team that Jim Valvano took to the to win the championship back in 1983. And the fact that they won that game on a fluke air ball and caught and put it in, but it was the same kind of thing. They were just an average team that got hot. But let me tell you, there's two teams that are just the two best in the country, and that's Purdue and UConn. And if they're not in the championship game, I'm just going to be shocked. But crazy things happen. Just crazy things can happen. You just never know. But I just cannot imagine Purdue. They've been on a mission. Zach Edey has, more than anybody, has treated this like a narrow focus. He is looking down a tunnel. He's not distracted. He's not on social media doing all this bull like a lot of players do. He's focused on doing one thing. And let me tell you, you're going to need a dump truck to stop him.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put anything past Alabama. I mean, Alabama is one of those crazy teams that they can have a night where they can hit 18, 19, 23 pointers. And that's kind of what happened when they played Purdue in the regular season. I believe they hit 18 in that game. Purdue won by 6, but it took one heck of an effort to come back and win that game. They were beating Purdue comfortably for a good portion of that game until Purdue came back in the second half.
That 11-point swing, when they were leading by 11 and Purdue went on that 15-2 run, part of that was closing the half, and then the other part was coming out of the half. And that decided the game, because from there on, Tennessee was going uphill the whole rest of the game. And had they been able to maintain a good portion of that lead, this might have been a different turnout, because Dalton Connect was on fire. He was gokiing it up yesterday. What a crazy performance by both Zach Edey and daggone it, I got Goki on the brain, but
Dalton Connect, yeah.
Dalton Connect. And how much money did he make himself yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, and
his draft stock's going to climb.
Transfer out of Northern Colorado. Who transfers from Northern Colorado to be a National Player of the Year candidate?
And you know what? I was thinking, as much as the transfer portal has got a lot of faults, I think it's made the game better for the fans.
Yeah, I think if you play it right, it can be a huge boon. Just look at what Purdue was able to do with Lance Jones. He was the one addition, and Purdue has started the same 5 guys in all 37 games this year. And he was able to come in and fill that one spot, and he has filled it tremendously. I mean, it shifted Fletcher Lawyer over to the 3 and kind of on the wing and everything, and that's opened things up. He's able to score. He's able to play defense. He's able to drive. And just, I don't think you could add a better player to what Purdue tries to do than what Lance Jones has done this season. He's been, and like you said, that's just the one addition, but it was more than enough. I mean, this is a completely different team, and you took an already really good basketball team and you made them elite with just one guy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm looking forward to this Final Four because it's going to take a monumental upset for North Carolina State to beat Purdue, first of all, and that Cinderella story may be bigger than with Valvano's, just because of today's age, how good Purdue is. You know, that team way back then, it did beat the Houston team of the dream of Elijah Wan and who was the guard? Daggone it, for Houston.
Oh, that's a little bit before my time.
Daggone it. Clyde the Glide, baby. Clyde the Glide Drexler.
Yes, Clyde Drexler.
So monumental upsets happen. But I don't see it here. I just don't know that North Carolina State can put enough pressure on Purdue's guards to do that, and that's what it's going to take. You have to not only shut down Purdue's guards from knocking that three, but you got to shut them down from getting the ball to Edey so regularly and easily, because if he gets it within 4 feet, his shot is working right now from 4 or 5 feet. That little dink, his touch is just going in, and you're not going to stop him. And I guess they don't have the hops to block him. So you're going to have to shut their guards down in a lot of different ways if you have any chance of beating Purdue.
So does the narrative still count of losing to a double-digit seed every year if it happens in the Final Four?
Well, no. Well,
it would be the 4th straight year.
It would not be. Purdue would take a lot of crap for that. I'm sure. Even though it's in the Final Four, they would get a lot of grief. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and then
but it's very reminiscent, not to cut you off, very reminiscent of when Virginia lost as a 16 seed, or lost as a 1 seed to the 16, the first ever to do it. The next year, they won the national championship. So yeah. I don't know if Purdue's got that kind of magic going, but there's that.
I think everybody wants to see a Purdue UConn final, and I honestly kind of think that's what we're going to get. But Alabama, man, they are a team that can just get red hot and shoot the three, and they can. Mark Sears, man, he took it to Purdue when they played back in December in Toronto. He just was a phenomenal guard. I would not be shocked to see Alabama beat UConn, but I think it's going to take one of those games where they hit 18, 19, 23s, and then if you get a rematch of Purdue and Alabama in the final, that would be another tremendous game. I mean, you got two teams that already played each other, and it seems to be that Purdue is just they're getting rematches the whole way through this tournament. So I wouldn't mind seeing it. I can't imagine Purdue winning a national title. Just making a Final Four is a dream come true at this point. But heck, you're there. You might as well try to win the whole damn thing. And I think if you get a Purdue UConn final, it's one of those rare seasons where you get the two best teams in college basketball in the championship game. And you'll have whoever wins that game will definitely be the champion, the team that did the best and is the best team in the country this year.
That's a statement of fact right there. And I don't think anybody can doubt that. I didn't have Houston in my Final Four. I thought something was going to happen along the way. It was not an injury like that. And you hate to see that be the case, but we'll see. These are the two best teams without question. And fortunately, if it turns out to be the case, we'll get to talk about it next Monday before the game with the championship game coming up on this Saturday. But there is so much basketball this week. What is today? Today's Monday. In Indy, the NIT semis are at Hinkle Fieldhouse tomorrow.
That's beautiful.
The championship game is there Thursday. The Chipotle High School National Finals Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Brownsburg High School. It's like, damn, I have logged more miles in the last few weeks, and Indiana's not even been playing for 3 weeks or however long it's been. It's just been a crazy busy.
Is Fischer's going to be in that thing on at Brownsburg, or are they going to be?
No. That's for schools like La Lumiere, Montverde Academy, IMG.
So it's not a real championship then.
Well, it's real. These teams are.
It's not a real championship because they do not play with their state associations. They are glorified.
It's not a high school. It's not a state high school deal.
Yeah, well, they're not high schools. Those are Those are semi-professional high schoolers. And
I agree with. I agree with.
I'll tell you what, I would like to see Fischer's go play in that. That Fischer's team is a really, really good program, and I can't imagine how good they would be had Jalen Harrelson stayed this year.
That's a good point, but without Jalen Harrelson, I went down to the Montverde Invitational Tournament, got to see a lot of teams play, and my opinion, not close. It would not be close. Cooper
I'm
Flagg,
old school, though.
Cooper Flagg is everything that he has been billed to be. Liam McNeely on that team, Asa Newell, their starting 5 are all going to high major programs. They've got guys on the bench that are going to programs, big time programs. That's just Montverde. And so you've got all these other teams, La Lumiere, but it is shocking how good Fischer's was without Jalen Harrelson. But something I mentioned earlier, Travis, they had 11 guards on their roster, 11 with 2 forwards and a center. And just unbelievable that they were able to do that. And I don't know that there's not a high ranked player on that team. There's not somebody that all these big time schools are looking at. That's amazing.
And
what they were able to do.
I saw their regional game against Kokomo. I went over to Newcastle for that, and it was impressive what they did to Kokomo. Obviously Kokomo had Flory Badunga, but Kokomo's guards had been playing really well late in the season, and I thought that they had a legitimate chance of beating them. And Fischer's took it to them, man. They got up early, and they just did not let Kokomo back into the game. And so that, to me, it's very impressive what Fischer's was able to do this year, and to go through a season in Indiana with just 1 loss is really, really impressive.
Absolutely. Looking forward to what fears should Purdue have against the game with North Carolina State?
Just a lot like
not fears, but what do they have to really, really focus on?
I think it's just a lot like the game with Tennessee. They just have to make sure that they don't miss their threes. If they're hitting their threes, like you said, Edey's going to get his. I think it's going to be incredibly tough to beat them. But if they have a poor night shooting from 3 and they start turning the ball over a little bit, it'll be close. But honestly, at this point, house money. Whatever happens is going to happen out there. They have finally broken through, and it almost just feels like now that they have gotten to a Final Four, even if they don't win it, it feels like they're, now that we've seen that they can do it, there will be other chances down the road. Matt Painter has built a program that has now proven it can get to Final Fours. It can win in March, and that's only going to pay off phenomenally in the long run. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun out there. It's going to be great to see them, to see how they do. And my only concern with the 3-point shooting is the weird atmosphere that you get on the courts in these gigantic football stadiums. I think that diminishes the basketball a little bit because it's hard to shoot. It's hard to, you got the weird shooting backgrounds and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see how that part plays out.
Yeah, that's been something that has been talked about for a long time, but I think they get adjusted to it with the people in there, especially. It dulls the sound, but it's not the same as being in the gym. But maybe that's better because it can't be quite as loud when you're in a place like Assembly Hall or I can't think of Purdue's Mackey
Arena.
Or you're in one of those places, man. That's just like a sound test when you're in those places. Like you can't hear jack. So
Mackey is a force multiplier for Purdue, is what I call it. It is a dungeon of noise, and when that place really gets going, you just see teams wilt against that.
What's the you don't have to talk about UConn yet, but all right. So what's your prediction on North Carolina State?
Again, if Purdue's hitting their threes, hopefully it was just an aberration against Tennessee, but Purdue's been solid this whole tournament, especially in the second half. They have just throttled teams coming out of halftime. I think they can get past North Carolina State. I look for them to do so. And then in the title game, I think they're going to get UConn, and I think that is going to be a tremendous matchup. I think I would give UConn an edge just because they've been there before, and they are playing just some really good basketball. They've won 10 consecutive NCAA tournament games, all by double digits. Oof, that's hard to overcome. So it would be a phenomenal basketball game. You would have a true national champion there. But I think I'm going to pick UConn over Purdue in the title game, not by a lot, but I'll give UConn an edge.
Well, we'll talk about that game next week, so I don't have to. You don't have to. You can save that one. Donovan Clingan, he's a unique animal as well. So something that Purdue is going to have to deal with. But it's going to be a party for the Purdue fans in West Lafayette and those that are going. It's in Phoenix, right?
Yes.
Are you heading out to Phoenix this time?
Man, I really want to. I got to see how the logistics can work out and everything.
Are you kidding me?
I got to be a dad first. And yeah,
man. I think this is the time that getting a babysitter would not be looked upon as a bad thing.
It's my son's final Pinewood Derby on Sunday, and we've been working on the car. So,
oh man,
life
is more important. Life is more important.
And
Memories
going to be there. Casey's got it covered. It would be more of a go because I can type of thing. And so,
right on. And we'll talk to Casey on Friday, and I'm sure that Casey doesn't get very excited about much. But I'm sure he's excited on the inside.
Yes, he obviously is. He's done a phenomenal job this year, and he's been at every game, and we couldn't do what we do without what he has done this year. So he's been a tremendous asset for us, and I'm just happy that he decided to come aboard when we started this whole thing.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you very much, brother. We appreciate you. And for all the Purdue fans, make sure that you are getting hooked up at Boiler Upload and use the Autograph app for both Indiana and Purdue for the Hoosier.com. But the Autograph app, you can find all the content for everything. And appreciate you, brother. And I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joining us here. And that's going to wrap it up for us. What a great day that started with Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network. Of course, Don Fischer and Todd Leary on today. And Todd will be with us each and every Monday going forward. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. And, of course, Travis there from Boiler Upload. Man, big thanks to RC for jumping in for JTP. He's on a little bit of a hiatus this week, and we're back tomorrow to do this again. An incredible lineup. Mike DeCourcy, of course, Chronic Hoosier. Robbie Hummel will be with us, and we'll see what we can get going. But looking forward to that. And you guys go out and have yourselves a great, great day. Cannot thank you enough as always. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.